there's such a big difference between a diet, which sounds so temporary, and a nutritional eating plan, which sounds like something that's stable and fixed and concrete. The evidence, just talk to someone who's been doing it. That's then the evidence, not just a diet. So I can't see that for me that will ever change. And what I have, no one else can pick up and just follow my plan and it's going to work for them. It's so individual, and that's one of the things I love about MB. And you just feel like this is right for me. I love that. Yeah. It's really worth it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Great value.
Hello and welcome to the Metabolic Balance Stories podcast. This is where we share real stories and insights into metabolic balance and personalized nutrition. I'm Cherry Wills, I'm your host, and I am delighted to say that today I'm joined by two wonderful clients of mine. Kevin and Rosemarie Gallard went through the Metabolic Balance program, had their new personalized plans. First of all, back in 2019, February 2019, so nearly 6 years ago. And they have been wonderful clients ever since. And they have agreed to come on and talk about how they use metabolic balance, their journey and experience with it, and how they continue to, look in and reuse their plans really over the last 6 years. So, Kevin and Rosemarie, hello, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Cherry. Good to be here.
It's a pleasure, Cherry.
So, Rosemarie and Kevin, let's start with you, Kevin. Kevin and I, we know each other. We're in book group together. We sort of got to know each other a little bit. And then I think February 2019 or the new year of 2019, I believe you and Rosemarie were kind of talking about trying to do something about nutrition. So talk us through that.
Yeah, so we'd been discussing whether or not we go and see a nutritionist or a dietitian because Rosemarie was feeling that she needed something and I knew I was overweight as well. And so I said, well, I have this friend who's a nutritionist. So, well, let's just talk to her. And so we contacted you. You had our initial consultation. We did our big blood test and that sort of thing. And you introduced us to Metabolic Balance. And I just found my letter, actually, that you wrote today between our first meeting and when we decided, yes, we would go with Metabolic Balance. So that was nice to read that. And we've been involved in the plan on and off ever since.
Yeah. So there were a couple of health issues for both of you that were, at the time. Kevin, you were suffering from diverticulitis and reflux.
Yes. And I was on medication. I remember the doctor said to me, well, it's a no-brainer. You just take one of these pills once a day for the rest of your life. And once we got started on it, you sort of intimated, well, maybe. And I thought, oh, well, I'll just keep doing that. But really now, there's only special occasions where I still keep a supply of that drug because I do have a hiatus hernia. And if I'm working in the garden with lots of bending, that sort of thing, then that can make it flare up. Or if I overeat. So if I eat too much sometime, then it's good to have that there as a backstop. But really, I would take it once a month is kind of normal, I suppose.
It was kind of going from what is assumed that needs to be something forever kind of thing to actually saying, well, we never, it's not about curing. It's actually about saying managing it better.
Yeah. You didn't try and convince me that, that would change. You just said, oh, well, we'll see. And in time, I realized it was just unnecessary most of the time. So that was great for me. And I lost, in my first couple of phases, I lost about somewhere between 8 and 10 kilos, which is about optimal for me. So that was, a great experience.
Yeah. And Rosemarie. So Rosemarie, how were you? Do you remember how you were back in sort of that February 2019?
Yes, I do. Started toward the end of the year before, and I was pretty low in mood. I was quite depressed, carrying an extra 20 kg than is my optimum and so forth. And I just felt terrible. And I got to this point where I thought, in a way, I know what to do. I'm got a nursing background. I know the way I should eat, but I actually think I need some support and someone that I'm accountable to. I'd got to that point. And so the conversation, as Kev has said, evolved from that. And so I was in a pretty low place. I can still remember a time in our initial interview, and you just asked me a question. I dissolved into tears. He said, "How would you rate this?" And I said, 1. And we thought, oh, yeah, things aren't great in that sense. So for me, the whole experience it's not just about weight, it's about feeling good and having more energy and having just more verve in life. And I've just experienced the whole gamut. Weight is just really almost a side aspect, necessary, but it's the sense of well-being that I just attribute to eating well has a huge part to play.
Yeah. And it's interesting as well. One of the things I do, you said, you've got a nursing background, you know, a lot of, health knowledge. And you saying you sort of know, what you should be doing. But having done metabolic balance, do you think you did know what you should be doing?
No, Cherry, no. the teaching, the instructions that are out there that are a general kind of thing really don't specifically target what I needed. And to be just given the right kind of food, the right way of eating, just liberated me entirely. But to find that, it's not available out there in the general public. It's very specific to metabolic balance. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think if I remember correctly, you had there were bowel complaints as well for you that we were taking into account, that low mood and menopausal symptoms. So how old are you, Rosemarie? Would you mind sharing?
I'll be 68 in June.
So you were 62 when you started Metabolic Balance. So you were still suffering from those menopausal symptoms at that time as well. So that had been ongoing for quite, a few years by this point as well. Yeah. So, and joint discomfort. I think there was joint discomfort going on there as well. And so how quickly, can you remember how quickly you started to feel better in yourself?
In that initial strict phase, that first 2 weeks, the focus was just very intense. When you start on this, there's a lot to get your mind around. And we were very committed and we worked together and keeping that log of what you eat and how you rated yourself through that first 2 weeks. It was a really interesting guide in that. And I think I was feeling the benefit within that first 2 weeks. I was feeling better in myself. Then moving into the phase 2, there was this very strong desire in me to give it everything that I had because I was already feeling better purely by changing what I ate and how I ate. So that was the only change really in my life, and I was feeling the benefits. So that motivated me and both of us really to just, this is working. I want to get right through this and just find what this means and what this looks like in my life.
Because that's the motivation, isn't it? Actually, it's just, you just feel so much better. So it's kind of like, I don't want this to stop.
Correct. That's right. Yeah.
And we knew fairly early on that if we just kept going, that it'd be that way. And of course, in the 6 years, there have been times when we've especially maybe around Christmas time or other celebration times where you kind of get off track and you start to feel sluggish, and you just know that if I just go back on, just get a lot more strict with myself, then I'll feel better again. And it's never failed to work.
And that's, I think, just supporting what Kev says, that's what you learn on this program, that you learn to listen to your body, you learn when it's happy, you learn when it's not happy, and then you've got the power to make those choices. That is really great to do that. And so, like you're saying, I don't want to feel like that anymore. I know what I can do to feel better.
And it's those steps, those real practical steps straight away, Monday morning or Thursday afternoon. Okay, let's just get going on that. And I'll start to feel better again. Yeah. So if we go back to 2019, because, we'd started in February of 2019 and you were going up so beautifully. And then you actually had a very significant accident, didn't you, Rosemarie, in June of that year? Would you just mind sharing what happened there?
It's the 19th of June, and the Tuesday had just been a normal day for me. Come home, had dinner, went to bed. The next thing I remember is about 1:00 in that morning. I woke up to go to the toilet, and I remember nothing more. That's a early Wednesday morning. I remember nothing more till the Friday. So what I've learned, because I have no memory of that, Kev was the witness. We have bedrooms upstairs, living downstairs. I had somehow lost consciousness at the top of the stairs. I don't have to go down the stairs to go to the toilet, but I ended there, and I went head first, face down, 13 timber stairs, and I was unconscious. Kev roused, he knew something wasn't right, found me like that. I was unconscious, and he had to make a split-second decision. I don't know if she's got a broken neck or whatever. So the trauma for him has been enormous, but he made the decision to bring me down, put me in the recovery position. I came to, and my brain was still obviously telling me, you need to go to the toilet. So I still needed to go to the toilet, and I would not let him, apparently, do anything but get me to the toilet.
So she's in the recovery position in a pool of blood on the bottom of the stairs. I dragged her down the last couple, and that roused her. She was unconscious, which is why I moved her. And first thing she does is try and get up. I by now had got the phone, and that was a wall phone, and brought it in and had that on speaker beside us. And the lady saying, don't move it. I said, no, apparently we're going to the toilet. So we're getting staggered into the toilet. No.
So the result of that injury, the ambulance came. What had happened was that I had smashed all my vocal cords inside. They were just broken, which means that when you're breathing and so forth, you're not getting the air in and out properly. So I couldn't breathe. I couldn't get rid of stuff. And so what resulted in being taken to emergency in one of our big hospitals here, they decided I had to have a tracheostomy. And so that's the site just there, so that I could actually breathe and survive. Then the next day, they took me to surgery and they repaired my vocal cords. But I had to have the tracheostomy for 2 months. And that was all just time just to see how that healing went. I was in intensive care for 6 days, then in an ear, nose and throat ward for another 8 days. So in hospital for 2 weeks. I was very unbalanced. I was bruised from top to bottom. I had a small head injury, a few stitches needed in places. I couldn't walk. I couldn't balance. I was using a wheelie walker for a while, then a walking stick. It took me a while to get balance again when we came home. So Kev then had to become my carer. They sent me home with a tracheostomy. So eating and drinking was just the bane of my life. It was the hardest thing to do. They looked after me so very well, but coming home, and if the tracheostomy had moved at all, that would be very endangering to my health. So Kev had to be my carer. I couldn't shower myself. I couldn't do anything for myself. It was a progressive recovery. So then learning how to eat again was a challenge. So when they took that out, there was still physically I was getting strong and well. I remember celebrating the day where I said, no, I want to shower by myself today. I felt stronger enough after about a month, and Kev hovered for quite a while. But yeah, so it was a very progressive journey of physical recovery. But the mental and emotional, I had post-traumatic stress then probably for 2 years. And so as I look back on that, that was so challenging in that. But if I had had this accident before I'd done Metabolic Balance, as I've described how I was feeling back then, I think it would have been a lot longer process as well. But because I was feeling so much better and was much more healthy, that aided my recovery to be as thorough as it has been since then.
Yeah, because Kevin, you obviously witness to all of this. But also you were witness to how Rosemarie's health was, before that.
Yes, that's right. So in my own journey, I felt that I responded really quickly to the program, but Rosemarie was in a different place, so it took her longer. But she was really, we'd really got to a point where we were both just feeling fantastic. That at that time when Rosemarie went down the stairs, and it was pretty traumatic for me at the time, but of everyone, I'm the one who saw Rosemarie when she came to and wanted to go to the loo and all that sort of thing. So all the issues were here, but the rest of her system was really good, whereas in an induced coma for several days and then being sedated, just so things didn't move around. My children were just adult children were just so worried about how Rosemarie was feeling. But I was the one who was saying, look, she's fine. She's in really good health. It's just about this, and we're managing that. So it'll all be good. And I really believe that Rosemarie's health at the time of that accident really helped her come through. The fact that she was feeling so well really shone through to me. Just one thing. In emergency, I wasn't able, but once we got to the hospital, I wasn't able to be with Rosemarie for a couple of hours while they organised surgeons and surgeries and things like that. And when they finally let me in, she was sitting up on the bed, and the duty nurse was there, and she said, well, this is a bit of a funny one. I've never had my own patients suction their own themselves, because she was a nurse. She's sitting there doing the suctioning for the nurse while she did her paperwork and sitting up. Just when she can't remember any of that, but she was just fine. Like, you know what I mean, physically. I've got this.
You're a wonderfully determined lady, Rosemarie. There's no question about it. You know what you can do and what you want to do. I love it. Yeah. So that was obviously, as you that was a pretty long recovery, and so you had to learn to eat again, as you say, and you're using all the different textures again of foods and to do that. How do you think, did you think about your foods from your food list at that time? How were you managing all of the...
I actually felt terrible because I had to have my food pureed to start with, and that was okay. Kev could do what we normally eat, and he would puree it up, and I would do that. But I could not. It took me half an hour to eat about that much on a plate because it was just so difficult. So I went from needing to lose weight to then having to put weight on because I'd lost so much. And that's where I met up with you again, and we worked through that one as well. So thinking about what to eat, I couldn't eat the normal way. Everything had to be soft. Went from pureed to then a soft diet. So I was on a soft diet for 2 months. So I couldn't eat salads. Lettuce would stick in the tracheostomy and stuff. So I had to try it, but I just couldn't do it. So I just did the best I could. But everything more or less got blended or just a little bit mashed up so that it wasn't big and chunky. So salads kind of went out the window, really. It was mostly vegetables and the protein. And but I can remember feeling anxious at one point, and Kev must have spoken with you, because I couldn't eat a full portion size of protein of one kind. And so you fed back to him, Rosemary can mix a portion. So that put me onto tuna mornay.
Yum. Okay, yes.
So that I could have the dairy, the cheese, and have a portion that was good enough. And we could make enough and freeze portions and so forth like that. We'd learned how to do that.
And I think, that's always the case, that everything can be adapted and tweaked for the right reasons at the right time to really nourish you in what way. And so moving forward from this over the last sort of 4 years, 5 years, well, it's been 6 years since you actually started, but it's over the last, let's say 4 or 5 years, how have you used your plan since that time?
Yes, I've been to doctors and that sort of thing, and told that I had, I need to be careful of my heart and watch the cholesterol and all this sort of thing. So I just feel that by sticking to the plan, that I've maintained a level of health and given me the confidence to know my own body. That's one of the keys that we both learnt in that first period of time, because when you get to the stage 4 where it says try different things, you really can tell, and you really know that, okay, I really enjoyed that, but I can't eat that all the time. But there are other things that you put in part of your diet, and if you just have it occasionally, it has no impact. It feels like you understand what your body's telling you, and well, that's fine. I can keep doing that as long as I don't go crazy with it. And it's just wonderful. So recently, for people listening, I went to visit Cherry based on what I'd been told by doctors and that sort of thing, and I just had my own feelings about whether or not I should be on another drug permanently, and I didn't feel that was a great idea. And again, Cherry didn't try and convince me one way or the other. She just laid out the information that I'd provided her and said, well, this is what the information's telling us. I think you can make your decision based on that and how you feel. And so that's a really important part of using the plan. But just on those times where you feel like where I work, we always have a cake whenever someone has a birthday. Someone brings in sweets all the time. There's always extra food and goodies around. And especially once you start, like at Christmas time, then it's hard then, as things just keep moving on, that you just keep doing it. And then it's like, okay, I know I'm feeling worse. I just have to stop. And the people I work with are really good when I say, look, no, don't offer me. I don't want to know. It's easier if I just have breakfast, lunch and dinner and nothing in between, no extras. And all of a sudden your body goes, thank you. This is necessary. We need to do this. Yeah.
It is like that. It does say, oh, yes, great. Yeah.
Yes. And I don't want to make it sound like it was months and months and months, but after a little while you just know I've got to get back on track. And so just looking through the book, having the plan, even when you're off plan, we still try to stick to the 8 rules, as they're called, things to remember. And I really believe that helps as well, so that when you do come back on, it just happens quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. And Rosemary, so how about you? How do you work with it?
It's always there. Like, it's just part of who I am now. It's part of what I do. Am I always perfect? No. Am I weak in some areas? Yes, I am sometimes. But it's always there. Like, it's just so much a part of how we eat and how we purchase things, and we still tend to weigh our food. We still tend to do all of those things because we just believe in that. The portion size, the type of food, it's just part of who we are now, which is lovely.
Would you say it's the sort of a reassuring presence of just this just gentle, just knowing the framework that you can just be well within?
Yes, I would. And it makes you more conscious of what you're doing. So you're making those choices. If I make poor choices, then I wear the consequences of that. But I know what the good choices are. And so that's always there. And that's where I aim to be most of the time, is making those good choices for what has been worked out to be best for me. And I just agree with it, and I believe in it, and I still feel the benefit of it. There's been some people, particularly in my church network, I haven't promoted it, but people have noticed. And if they're interested, I'll talk to them about it, but I don't push it because it's such a personal thing. And what I have, no one else can pick up and just follow my plan and it's going to work for them. It's so individual. And that's one of the things I love about MB. And you just feel like this is right for me. I love that. And so it's been interesting for me as others of these people have talked to me. Some have come and seen you, and just been interesting for me to observe who's stuck with it and who hasn't, and thinking about those elements. And I think for me, I got to such a point where I knew I needed to do something different. I needed to change. I knew why I needed to change. And I found the system and the support that you give to be just at the right time and for the right stage of my life. And that's kind of now just my framework. For others, unless you've got that full commitment, it's easy to just waffle and not have that same determination. That's what I think has been one of my hallmarks. It's been the determination to do this, but because I know that it works for me. If you don't have that, it's easy to just put it in it's just another diet, tried that, didn't work. You've got to own it a little bit more than that.
I think it's owning that self-care though, isn't it? Because I think one of when we talk, I really do relate to what you're saying. Because I have a determination to look after my, I'm not perfect at all either. I know it was perfection. No, I can't do that. But I know the boundaries within which will keep me in a good place and me feeling well and my digestion feeling well. And I just haven't got the interest in any way to eat something that's going to make me feel that. I just don't. Why would I want to eat that when it's going to make me feel like that? It's not going to be that good. It's not good enough, kind of thing. And so there's a determination to actually just feel good in yourself in a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. And this living the MB lifestyle, if you like, this plan helps you know what those things are that you used to eat them and think they were great, but now when you do, you don't see it. It's not so nice because you're just like you said, it's like, why would I do that? And it's not that good that I want to go through that again. So it's just not part of what I eat anymore.
Yeah. But it's like society as well. I mean, like, you're active, social people with a nice group of friends, and the norm is to go with the social, what the norms of 2025, which is, eating various processed foods, probably various, snacking, mid-morning cake and birthday cake every other day and that kind of thing. That is more the norm. So it's really, really easy, in my opinion, to see why people fall into these sort of almost vicious cycles of, well, it's, feeling bad, or feeling ill, inflamed, uncomfortable in your body, but then also just going with the food and the lifestyle choices that kind of keep you there. So where is the kind of the future for you guys now? Kevin, you're close to retirement now, are you not?
Later this year, I'll retire. I'm working 3 days a week at the moment. So really, no change in the way we eat and plan to eat. Don't expect there to be any major change. We've embraced for several years now that this is just our way forward. And anytime we need a little bit of a catch up, we can contact yourself, and I'm sure other people have their person that they can contact, and it just helps you realize that you're doing everything you can to keep that part of your life in balance. So yeah.
I've just been thinking how user-friendly MB is. Last year, we have 3 married children and 8 grandkids and stuff, and we planned this road trip, which was 7,200 kilometres from here, going north out to Uluru, back down south. So we did this whole circuit over about 3 weeks. And so we have a camper trailer, and so you have limited fridge space, you have limited storage space. But because MB is just so what we do, we just buy the protein and we buy the salad if we can get it in those remote places, or the veggies or whatever it is, and we just cook to plan. We don't take the plan with us. It's just all there.
It's not complex, is it?
No, it's just there, and you just can go into a shop and your stuff is there.
And there's plenty of choice.
Yeah.
It's just good food.
Yeah.
That's exactly
Wherever
right.
you go.
There's ample choice.
Yeah.
For staying on.
Yeah. So if you were to be talking to, or somebody's asking you about, whether this is something that's, good value for money to do, what would you say is, to that question?
It's a very individual. So it works for me because I stick to my plan. You would do your blood tests, and there'd be a plan for you. And it is very good value because it achieves what it says it'll achieve, and that's priceless, really. So it's great value.
And then you have it ongoing any time you need it. You have that knowledge, because that's all. I mean, I think of it. It's that education. You can, once you've learned something, it's that knowledge in your mind is priceless, isn't it? Education is always priceless. It's the most valuable thing we can do, rather than, well, it's just, that's what we need more of in the world.
I think one of the things that has been highlighted for me is the difference between an eating plan and a diet. I now find that 4-letter word quite jarring. And that's one thing that initially I used to, when people would say, so what's the diet you're doing? It's not a diet. It's a nutritional eating plan. And that was my stock standard answer. And there's such a big difference between a diet, which sounds so temporary, and a nutritional eating plan, which sounds like something that's stable and fixed and concrete, and the evidence. Just talk to someone who's been doing it. That's then the evidence, not just a diet. So I can't see that for me that will ever change. I had the thought the other day, we're getting older. I have no ambition and no desire to go into a nursing home or anything like that. But I was thinking the other day, if that ever had to happen and I didn't have full control of how I eat and how I have to look after myself and I have to choose someone else's cooking for me and someone else's diet, I just think, oh, how, oh. So I've just put that one on the shelf, and maybe I will have to, if I ever have to do that, I'll be saying, this is how I eat.
Yeah.
But that's also motivation in itself, is it not, as well? I think that's part of my daily motivation often is what I don't want to feel like. Like I don't want, like you, Rosemary, I think they do an amazing job, aged care facilities. You know, they're vital, amazing what they do, and they create, you know, spaces for people to be safe and be cared for. But if we don't need that, wouldn't it be amazing to not need it?
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, very much. My aged mum, who died 2 years ago, she was 90, she would talk to me, and she wondered about whether she should come into metabolic balance and the like, but she didn't do that. But she used to ask me questions and what were some of the principles and the guidelines of what I do. And so she really picked up on the protein thing. And so and mum had always looked after her weight and her health for years.
Good.
She's always interested in all of that. And so she picked up on some of the 8 guiding steps, to the point that she would do up a batch of boiled eggs every few days, and she would cut them in half, and she would have half and Dad would have half, with lunch every day, and they would eat their protein first, have half an egg, and then have whatever their meat and salad or veggies or like that. So she did her own version, but it was just lovely.
And exactly, and that's the lovely thing I often say about this is one of the aspects I love about what I do as well, and I've talked to about this with other MB practitioners too. It's the ripple effect that, you know, I could say, you know, if there's perfectly feasible, I could just give you supplements. You know, I could prescribe a supplement, but that will only help you, and it will only help you during that period of time you take that supplement, and it's a very finite, contained influence. Whereas when, you know, we can teach people how to eat and how to look after themselves, people talk and they share with their loved ones, and the ripple effect going out, it's like a beautiful pandemic that you could say, that sharing of knowledge and health.
And they notice and ask.
Yeah.
You don't even have to tell people, you know, they might just ask, well, you eat very well? I go, yes, I do, because I just realised how important that is to me. Yeah.
One of the things that I actually remember this so succinctly with you, Rosemary, as well, actually, because yes, you lost nearly 20 kilos in weight when you first did MB, and you were, you know, your bowel, you know, your digestive issues were resolving, you were getting healthier. What I remember really strongly is the spark coming back in your eyes, because I do, you know, like you said, your mood was not in a great place. It was pretty low. You were not a happy, you know, despite having all this wonderful support around you, internally you were not in a great place. And then the feeling of that zest for life, that sort of verb, I think you'd called it. Yeah. That came back, and that spark in your eyes came back.
Exactly. And I think the way you coach through, you are such a positive person, but you're very real as well. We can tweak this, we could tweak that, you know, you're doing well here, we'll just keep working on this. So but it was all just very positive and very encouraging. So to have that input on top of how I'm feeling in response to what I'm doing, it just builds and builds as well. So it was for me, it was a combination of the support that MB gives and the coaching that's available, on top of you taking the steps, me taking the steps of doing what it takes to do that. And that combination, I think I just found my wings. I think I found my wings, and that's just continued to be there. I think when I came back to see you in 21 for a different reason, and we were talking, and I think it was that time, and I made a comment to you, and you said, "Oh, can I use that?" And it was something like, "I feel so energetic, I can't keep up with myself."
I do use that. You can't keep up with yourself. That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, that kind of has encapsulated from the before story, Rosemarie before MB, and really the Rosemarie now that has continued and still continues 6 years later. Yeah. It's really worth it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Great value.
So thank you so much for sharing that. It's been a pleasure for me to support you both over the last 6 years, and an extra pleasure for you to share your story today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Hope it helps and stimulates other people.
Encourages others.
Yeah, because that's all it's about. It's just spreading the word. Just say this is something that exists, and you should very much consider it. Yeah. So if anybody listening is considering metabolic balance, do check out the website, metabolicbalance.com, and you will be able to find your local practitioner, because metabolic, like Rosemary says, it's having the coach. It's not just me, definitely not just me. There's some amazing practitioners around the world who can support you. So we will leave it there. Thank you again, Kevin and Rosemarie. And we will catch up again next time. Thank you.